Hi, this is Combined Transport's roundtable meeting. It is January the 14th of 2022. And welcome everybody. And I got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. Got a pretty good crowd in the room. We're going to go around and introduce themselves. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Randy Spurlock. I've done a little bit of everything here. I've drove for quite a while. I've done the securement training. I've done glass training. I've loaded glass in Salem. I've been here a while, and I know very little about everything and a little bit about some things. So I'll go around the room. We'll start with you. What do you do and what's your name?
Hi, I'm Bree Shelton. I'm a driver recruiter for Blackwell Combine.
Glad you're here.
Yeah, my name's Jeffrey Bonneville. I'm a truck driver now.
All right, what division you going into?
Reefer West.
Reefer West, Blackwell. Awesome.
I'm John Conlon. I just got my Class A May 2021. I'm going into Reefer West. This is my first actually Class A driving job. And yeah.
Cool. Well, welcome to the industry.
Thank you.
Bruce Whitman, I'm returning from medical time off. Been in the country for 7 years and combines glass department, glass division.
The best division.
Happy to be back again.
I'm Richie Sapp. I'm still a new driver. I got my truck assigned to me on November 8th, so I'm still pretty new. I'm doing the Crystal Geyser water out of Weed, California.
Okay.
Things are working well. I like it. I'm happy.
You enjoying it?
Uh-huh.
Okay. You enjoying being in the trucking industry?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Good deal.
My name's Frank. I do custodial and some maintenance, and I've been with Combined for 6 years.
Well, we're glad you're here.
My name's Jordan. I'm going into Reefer West with the Blackwell division, and this is my first actual CDL Class A driving job, and so far so good.
Awesome. Well, welcome, and welcome to everybody. So I kind of volunteered to do this one. I wasn't scheduled to do this one. Anybody that's heard me do one of these on the radio knows that I get nervous, and I do nervous talk. So if I freeze up and stare directly at the camera, that's just me being I got quite a bit to talk about that several of the managers have given me. We've got some big changes in the industry coming up. I won't make it too long. It's not going to be... but we've got a lot of people coming into the industry that are brand new. Our hiring has been more in that end, and I think that's been the trend all across the industry. How do you attract, those experienced drivers to come in and do some of the open equipment jobs and whatnot? Everybody's struggling to fill those positions, and we're filling them kind of with new hires coming into the Blackwell division and then migrating over to glass or whatever. We've had some real success doing that. Bree, what's our sign-on bonus for referral?
Right now we have a great sign-on bonus for our flatbed glass division at $4,800.
For how much?
$4,800.
4,800?
Yeah.
Whoa.
No. And that's so that's for a driver to come in.
Yes.
Yeah. So our what's our referral bonus?
Our referral bonus, if you have a driver and you currently work for the company and you refer a driver, they last 30 days with the company, you get a $2,000 bonus paid out all at once for a referral fee.
Yep, right off the bat. So if they're here 30 days and they told that you are referenced them, that's $2,000 in one check before taxes, obviously. And just make sure that they know that you referred them, right? So drivers are our best referral out here for recruiting. So we'll move on to our CSA. I know that we've hammered this every time, I don't know why I'm yelling, we hammer this recently a lot. Our CSA scores have been climbing. Recently, we have gone over the threshold in one category in Blackwell, whereas traditionally, we have never been over in any category on the threshold in Blackwell. We're over the threshold in 3 categories in combined transport. That means is that instead of getting green lights, we're going to get pulled into most scales, and the chance of getting inspected increases with those pull-ins, right? So that's an expectation that we're gonna get inspected. We're certainly not gonna get inspected every time they pull you in. Most times, just come in, they're gonna look at your stickers, and they're gonna give you a green light going across the scales. But since we're in the scales, our chances of getting inspected go up. And then if we're not doing our job, our chance of failing those inspections goes up as well. So the more times we get pulled in, the higher our chances are if we're not doing our jobs. Our job is not to just sit there and drive. And I'm not trying to be preachy about this, but everybody that takes this job task on, our job is a lot more in depth than just climbing up, sitting behind the steering wheel and taking off. We've got inspections, we've got our logbooks, we've got our paperwork, we've got a whole plethora of things that need to be addressed besides just sitting there holding the steering wheel and going down the road. So if we don't do those things and we get caught in inspections, our score goes up and it costs everybody money in the long run. So if we could all please work to do our jobs, eventually we'll get those scores down and we can get back to doing business as usual. Not that we're not doing business as usual, but I'm going to touch a little bit on just some of the numbers, right? So we're over the threshold in combined in hours of service compliance. That increased a percentage point to 87%. Now the threshold's 65, so we're 22 points over the threshold. Driver fitness, 88% was a decrease from 90%. The threshold's 75% in that category. Driver fitness is glasses, simply having your CDL in your possession, simply having your CDL being current. Those are all driver fitness things. If you have to wear earplugs or hearing aids, thank you very much. Those are all part of driver fitness. If it's on your driver's license that you are required to have those, you're required to have them in or on while you're going down the road and operating that vehicle. Simple as that. Vehicle maintenance, everybody knows what that is. Yep. Right? It's taking care of your stuff. Right? Tires, lights, adjustments, brakes, things that we're responsible for. Right? It's not the mechanics. It's not the guy that does the annual inspection to catch those things. It is our responsibility as drivers to make sure that those things are correct before we go down the road. And it's just part of the job, and we're not doing that job. So let's do a better job, please, all of us. So our inspection selection system for combined has increased to a score of 97 from 96. The ISS recommendation is inspect. So the scale houses have our little tag number there and our name, and what they see is that we're over these thresholds. We're going to come in automatically in most cases. The system's automated. The basis for these recommendations is simply safety, and that comes from the regulatory people that handle this. Blackwell, we are over in the hours of service compliance. We are now at 70%. That has not changed since the last time, but the threshold is 65%. Being that we do a lot of work in California with Blackwell, the pre-pass has reported that a 100% pull-in rate in California for Blackwell. So what that means is just exactly what it sounds like. That the chances are if the scale's open, you're getting a red light. Doesn't mean you're getting inspected. It just means that you're gonna come in and cross the scales. Have your stuff in order. That age-old adage of don't have your dashboard piled full of papers rings true. If your truck looks like you don't know what you're doing or you're a hot mess, they're liable to light you up and say, driver, pull into door number 1. If your dash is nice and clean, you presented yourself in a fairly good manner, the chances are less of you getting those selections. Take care of your stuff, take care of yourself. And I said I wasn't gonna preach. I guess I am. It's a little frustrating to a lot of people in the industry that these things are snowballing. And they're not really snowballing, but they are increasing, and they don't need to be. We can do things to bring these scores down. I'm going to just touch a few of the things of the violations, just because they're like eye-opening, right? Operating a commercial motor vehicle without a CDL. That's an out-of-service violation. We've had 3 of them. Driving a CMV while disqualified from holding a CDL. We've had 1. Driving a CMV while CDL is suspended for safety-related or unknown reason outside the state of driver's license issuance. We've had 2. Those can be a variety of reasons, those can be a variety of things, but they are our responsibility to know that they've happened, right? So your state, your issuing state, we know we got things going on in our lives that may affect our CDL. Address those things. Fix those things. Don't let them become a part of a problem where they cost you your career or you cost you money and the company shared points with CSA. Tire vehicle maintenance violations. Tire flat and or audible air leak. Right? If you got 1 or 2 in the company wide, that's fine. That's understandable, that's gonna happen. We've had 19 out of service violations due to flat tires and or audible air leaks. It's unexcusable. I know that we get up here and some of the managers do this. I'm speaking from the point of a driver and a staff member. And I'm speaking from the heart on this. It's unexcusable that some of these things are done, right? We need to pay attention to what we do. There's no way that all 19 of those people didn't know that they didn't either have a flat tire or they didn't have an audible air leak. Either that or they just absolutely weren't doing their job. They're not walking around kicking their tires, checking their tires every time they stop, as is required. When you stop, you're required to do a tire check. Every time you have a change of duty status, you're required to walk around your truck. It doesn't take 45 seconds. If you pull into the rest area to go to the bathroom, get your tire thumper out, walk around your truck. Simple as that. You're required to do it anyway. Just do it. Brake system air pressure loss. Here's one and there's 24 violations. 4 of them were out of service. Inoperable required lamp, 37 violations. 6 of those resulted in out of service. How do you cannot say that I did not know that my lights weren't working at that rate. So there you go. I'm going to tamp it down now and get off my soapbox. I see these numbers and we talk about them all the time, and it's frustrating, to be quite honest. Chris Clark gave me some stuff to go over before I get into the Canadian mandate that goes into effect tomorrow, and the vaccination ruling there. We all know that we have a 1-hour minimum check-in prior to your confirmed load delivery appointment. that is sent on your dispatch. So if you have an 8 a.m. load delivery time, please be there and ready to check in at 7 a.m. If you, preferably, a lot of our glass places have a place you can spend the night there. Preferably get there the night before, get your 10-hour break in, and that way you can get up and you haven't burned any hours driving to where your load time is. Because we know how that goes. You get there at 8 a.m., you've been on the clock for 30 minutes because you're parked 20 miles away, and they tell you that, well, yeah, there's a 4-hour delay. And you've already started your clock. So if at all possible, we know it's not always possible, try to get there the night before and get a 10-hour break. I know that you Blackwell guys, a lot of our places don't allow you to overnight there, so that really doesn't apply to you. But sometimes you can, so utilize that when you can, if you can. Trailer maintenance, we are still when you pick a trailer up, it is your responsibility to do a DVIR on it when you pick it up. It is your responsibility to do a DVIR on it when you drop it off. Right? Those need to be done so we can make sure that the trailers are getting addressed and getting maintenance done on them. If you don't get minor stuff that you could have gotten done, you're leaving it for the next guy. Don't do that, because you're going to be that next guy eventually. And it's happening, and it's not just combined. It's everywhere. It's not just combined in Blackwell. It's all companies do this. But we need to get that down, those numbers. If it is during business hours and you're dropping a trailer needing maintenance, the expectation is that you call over-the-road maintenance and get direction on which shop to take the trailer to if you have the time. Make the time. Tell dispatch that you need to get this equipment repaired, because if you don't, you're leaving it for the next guy and he's got to take the time. Or it's going to be found out that it has to be put out of service. It's got to get fixed. So communication is key. Talk to over-the-road maintenance, talk to your dispatch. Hey, I've got a piece of equipment that needs to be repaired. Let's get it, can we get it done? So it is not the yard personnel's responsibility to take care of these items. And I highlighted that because the shop guys and the other people are here, they go around and pick up a trailer and move it. And when they find something wrong, we've got to get it fixed here when it was never brought to our attention. Right? So it needs to be brought to our attention, it needs to be dealt with. It's just simple as that. Let's do our jobs, and we can all be happier campers. All right, if you're going to be late for pickup, delivery, please call dispatch during business hours. I know that some of you new guys really aren't into the loop yet on how this all works. But if you're going to be late, you know you're going to be late, communicate that, right? If you don't tell us, we can't let the customer know. Don't call the customer and tell them you're going to be late. Let us deal with that. If you're going to be late, call dispatch. Call driver services. Of course, dispatch, if it's like it says, call during business hours. They're the better people to handle a late delivery or a late pickup. Driver services, if it's after hours, notify us. Doesn't work if we're not communicating. This allows us to be proactive in notifying our customers. Any questions?
Nope.
I don't mean talk. Roundtable is supposed to be a give and take. I've been giving, and
It's pretty basic.
so it is pretty basic. If you guys have any comments or anything, please feel free to jump in. We got anybody commenting on?
What time dispatch close? You said between business hours.
Dispatch is open from 5 a.m. in the morning until 5 p.m. in the evening, and they rotate through depending on what region those dispatchers work in. So our East Coast people come in at 5 a.m. Of course, Blackwell doesn't have that many East Coast people, but there's somebody between 5 and 5. And then driver services is 24 hours. So Canadian mandate taking place tomorrow. Bruce, are you Canadian qualified?
I am, yes, and I've heard about it.
Okay. You got any comments, or what are you gonna do?
I won't be going to Canada.
Okay. So I'm sure you've already talked about the money side of that
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
So the Canadian mandate is tomorrow. They retaliated against us, starting this same thing for Canadians, that ours takes effect January 22nd. They preempted us. Theirs takes place tomorrow. No American drivers or any drivers that are not Canadian are allowed into Canada that are not vaccinated. And they have a whole system set up to verify that vaccination. And it has to be done through an app. The app is mandatory. It has to be done per load. You can't just go on the app, put your information in, and submit it to the Canadian authorities. Once you go on there and you log on and you create an account, that's the first thing that you do. The second thing you do after that is every load you have to create information for that specific load. Okay, I downloaded it today just to see how it works, and it let me go all the way into it as far as to where my vaccination card and my passport, and it let me save all my information. It's pretty simple, it's pretty self-explanatory when you're looking at it. It looks like it's going to be pretty easy to use. There's information that you can use through the Canadian Truckers Association and the American Truckers Association, and Oregon has a really good place on their website that you can click into and click down on, and it gives you information on how to utilize this stuff to get into Canada, right? So what it does for our drivers is that if you got the 2 cents a mile bonus for being a Canadian qualified driver and you choose not to go to Canada or you're not vaccinated, we're not going to make anybody be vaccinated. I want to get that cleared up right now. I want to put that out in the air that we're not forcing anybody to be vaccinated. We're not going to have a mandate like that. It's still personal choice. But if you choose not to, for as long as this program's in place, you will not receive that 2 cents a mile bonus for the Canadian qualification, right? So, and that's, it just has to. If you can't go, you know, we can't continue to pay that until this crisis or whatever you want to do, call it over. Well, the Canadians yesterday came out and said, well, not everybody's not going to have to come in. Our drivers don't. Our drivers don't have to be vaccinated. And I thought, well, that's a fine thing. But to come in the 22nd, they can't come into the United States without them being vaccinated. This Canadian mandate was in direct response to our administration coming out last month and saying, hey, on January 22nd, Canadians are no longer be able to come into the border without being vaccinated. The Canadians jumped up and said, well, we're going to beat you to the punch by a week. As far as I read and knew, there wasn't any plan to do that. But anyway, there we are.
Thank you, government.
Thank you, government. So the Arrive Can, it's ARRIVECAN. You can get it through your app store, either through the thing that's not Apple or Apple. I'd say what the other one is, but I can never remember it.
Play Store?
Huh?
Play Store?
Android Play Store.
Android,
Android?
yes. On both of those app stores is the Arrive Can. I downloaded mine from Apple. Like I said, it seems to work pretty well. It seemed to be pretty easy to navigate. And there's also all kinds. Everybody got a global yesterday that showed where to go for information. There's a lot of information out there. There's no reason that we shouldn't be able to get this up and going and working. That goes into effect tomorrow. If you pull up to the border and stuff doesn't work, they're going to turn you around. All right, if you're not vaccinated or if you didn't go through the proper protocol or whatever, they're going to turn you around until you get that squared away. So be aware of that. Let me read what Chris wrote and the management team. This came through the management. Please note, Combined Transport is not currently mandating its employees to get the COVID vaccination. If you are a Canadian qualified driver, have been vaccinated, and are willing to utilize the ArriveCan app for Canadian entry, we wanted to let you know that we are temporarily increasing the Canadian crossing bonus to $150 while this mandate is in effect. So we're doubling that if it was $75. If you are currently Canadian qualified and are not going to get vaccinated, that is absolutely your choice. However, since we will not be able to tender Canadian freight to you, we will need to temporarily suspend your Canadian pay until the mandate is lifted. This will not take effect until March 1st to allow time for those of you who will opt to get the vaccine to maintain your Canadian qualified status. If you have any questions, please contact your division manager. Thank you as always for your dedication. So are there any questions on the Canadian mandate? I know that there's a lot of holes I didn't cover, but I think I covered the highlights of it.
Yeah.
Anything yet? All right, now we get to talk to some stuff, some good news. All right, so inspection bonus. Our inspection bonus for years has been $10 for any clean inspection. All right, so if you go through an inspection, whether it's a level 1, 2, or 3, it's always been $10 to get, if you get a clean inspection. We've increased that to $50. All right, so starting the 1st of this year, I believe is what she told me. I didn't print that page. So it did start the 1st of this year. As of January 1st, 2022, we increased the clean level inspection bonus to $50, which is pretty cool. You know, you don't get inspected twice in one day. Not very often. I know that people are going to say, yes, I have. But not normally, you don't get inspected twice.
Maybe it'll give people incentive to start doing their job better.
It will. It's a better incentive to do a better job with your inspections. Let's get those clean inspections up, regardless of the bonus. Let's just do our jobs and get those inspections cleaner and doing our job so that we can all get back to getting the green light when we come up to that. So we utilize, for you guys that are new to the industry, we utilize a pre-pass system that we pay a fee for, and a lot of the states participate in it. You pay attention to your P's and Q's and you accumulate a good enough reputation, you get a green light and you don't have to stop at the scales. You accumulate enough points in the opposite direction, you start getting increased frequency of being pulled into these scales. So, and that even before the CSA, that was a thing. There was a way that they kept tallies on who was doing their jobs and who weren't. So that's good on that $50 bonus. All right, now then, a pet peeve, so to speak. Dog poop in our yard here. If you got a dog, curb your animal. We provide bags at all of the things. I've had people, I guess, have been letting their dog go into my flatbed shed back here. I'm tired of scooping your dog's poop out. Clean up after yourself. We've had more complaints about it's all over the place, and I've seen evidence of it all over the yards. If you've got a job, if you've got a dog, if you've got a dog, please clean up after your animal. As simple as that. Just curb your animal. So my production supervisor left the equipment here and I have no way to turn it off. But I am concluding this unless you guys have any questions, comments, concerns.
I have a question. As an entry-level driver,
Yep.
what would be some tips right offhand that you would give me for going into the weigh station for inspection? Like you say, keep the dash clean. What else?
So follow the instructions, pay attention to what they put up there. If they say 3 miles an hour, then slow down to 3 miles an hour at or before that sign. Don't roll over that sign at 10 miles an hour and then start slowing down. California takes a pretty dim view of that, and that's one of the kickers on that. A lot of states have a 10 mile an hour speed limit or a 5 mile an hour speed limit. Some of them have variable speed limits. Some of them will put up, I think Utah is one that will go anywhere from 20 to 5, depending on how good of a reading they got out on the scales on the highway. So as you approach a Utah scale, you might get a driver go ahead at 20 miles an hour, or you might get a driver cross scales at 5 miles an hour. So they can get a more accurate weight, get a more better look at your paper, at your stickers and registration before they decide to have you come in or not. So pay attention is the biggest deal. Pay attention to what each individual scale is requiring you to do. And you know, I'm not a big polisher. I'm gonna wash my truck every week guy. And I have not had, in 30 years of driving, I have not had a dozen level 1 inspections in my whole career. I know some guys that say they've had 10 in a year. I don't know what the secret is. I know that you pay attention to what you're doing, pay attention to the signs, pay attention to what they expect of you. And it goes a great ways to getting you through those inspection stations, just by paying attention and looking like you know what you're doing.
If you do get pulled in, be very courteous. They have the power to do whatever they want. If you don't.
Yeah,
That's good
there-
advice.
And there's absolutely that. Yeah, you
But
don't
the
have to.
main thing is to maintain your truck ahead of time. Tires, the tire thing with us right now is that's completely,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
So-
it's just,
that was under their maintenances too. We've had quite a few tires other tread depth less than 2/32 of an inch.
but I mean, flat tire could be a tire, it doesn't necessarily have to be flat, it has to be under a certain pressure too. So it's maintaining your tire pressure. 80 pounds can be considered a flat tire, I think,
Yep.
on a truck.
Yep. It doesn't have to be flat
No.
Okay.
to be considered a flat tire.
So
to the regulation.
these trucks, I think most of them are what, 100 PSI?
100 and 110 for the guys running super singles, but 100 for everybody running dualies and singles.
Check them
And
at least once a week.
Okay.
Get your
What's
stuff
considered
gauge,
Yeah.
go around, check them all.
10.
I think it's 120, and then it's 120 for super singles.
Do not count yourself thumping tires. That is not checking tires, because thumping tires does not tell you anything on these new tires today.
You mean that stick that I bought that doesn't show me the pressure when I thump it?
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
I mean, your tires can be down to 70 pounds, and the one's at 100 pounds, and they're both gonna sound the same.
Mm-hmm.
So the only accurate way to do it is by actually pressure.
Checking the pressure, yeah, okay.
And that, if you do any interacting, just like Bruce said, if you do any interacting with any of the officers or inspection personnel, just be polite. You don't have to suck up to them. You don't have to do anything other than be a polite person, right? If you got a scowl on your face and what the hell are you doing talking to me and why do you want to inspect me, it does not go well for you.
No. it
They're
does
going to
not.
find something wrong at that point. Instead of just doing their job, you doing your job, do the inspection, give them an excuse, they're gonna find an excuse. So, anybody else? Well, I wanna thank everybody for letting me have my rants. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.